Hi, everyone. It's Steve Politi from NJ Advanced Media. This week's Rutgers Rant is brought to you by the New Brunswick Development Corporation. A big thank you to our sponsor and to all of our listeners for the continued support. Now let's get to the show.
From NJ.com and the Star Ledger, welcome to the Rutgers Rant, your one-stop podcast for the Scarlet Knights. With your host, Steve Politi, and Rutgers insiders Keith Sargent and James Cratch. Let's start shopping.
Well then, how about that, guys? New intro for the Rutgers Rant. And we have a new sponsor, too. This is a big day for the Rutgers Rant. Steve Politi joined James Cratch, Keith Sargent. First, let me just thank Keith Norton, a huge Rutgers fan and a professional voiceover guy, for doing the intro for us. It's a great new sound. We appreciate that, Norts. Now, this is an even bigger development, guys. We have a sponsor, New Brunswick Development Corporation, DevCo, as people know it and know it well. Sorry, so you know Chris Palladino, of course. We've known him for years. Yep. He texted me out of the blue one day. He says, so how do I go about sponsoring the podcast? And I immediately replied, wait, what podcast? Wait, our podcast. We want to sponsor our podcast.
And you, of course, just wanted them to cut out the middleman, just send you the money rather than the company, right?
Yeah, and I just wanted maybe some renovations on my house. I've seen some of the work that DevCo has done on some things throughout New Brunswick area and Newark as well. I was hoping maybe they could just,
Atlantic City,
bathroom in Atlantic City. Yeah, maybe my kitchen could use a new set of cabinets. But we thank Chris Palladino and DevCo for joining us. This is a great honor to have them as a sponsor. All right, we've got a lot to talk about, though, related to the Scarlet Knights and what happened Monday night in Nebraska. I want to say that I was surprised, guys, but I'm be honest with you. I mean, I wasn't all that surprised. I mean, I guess I was surprised I didn't think they'd be down 30 points to Nebraska, but this is what we've seen from this team. I mean, I wasn't surprised that they were down a lot early. That's what they were down 15 points before they rallied against Indiana. I wasn't surprised that, they had the problems defensively early. I mean, but yeah, to be down 30 points against the last place team on a day that the last place team's best player announced he was transferring, I mean, Cratch, it was just an unacceptable performance.
When I was watching the WebEx after the game, I thought to myself, this should have been a press conference where Steve Peichel got to do what so many we've joked about it before, so many coaches have done to Rutgers over the years. Go in there, pat the gritty Cornhuskers on the head. Coach Hoiberg's doing a great job. Big things are coming for these guys. I was scared about them, but I'm glad we took control in the second half and won by 15. That was what was supposed to happen. But since it's Rutgers, Nebraska's up 30 points at one point. Just, at this point, I think we're getting very close to the point where they're going to miss the tournament. Let's be real. I know they're comfortably in with all the bracketology. I know they've still got the Minnesota game. They still got the Big Ten tournament. This feels like it's falling apart, and it feels like it's slipping away. And if they don't make the big dance, what happened last year is going to go from an unfortunate situation to the single most haunting thing in the history of Rutgers athletics, period.
You can't hard to argue with that. And I guess I come back to this, though, Sarge. I thought that things were falling apart when they had a no-show loss at home to Maryland. I just thought that was a bad loss, that Steve Peichel had played the it's on me game. They came back, and then they just had a brilliant 30 minutes against Indiana and made us all forget about it. Are we going to see that again? Is this just one of these teams that you just, you have to have it back against the wall? You don't know what to expect from night to night. I mean, they played another bad Minnesota team, a team that's reeling, losing 5 straight games. What do you think we're going to see from them when they play next game?
Oh man, I get paid to analyze. So your guess is as good as mine. I mean, this team is really hard to figure out. One of the harder teams I've ever, tried to cover. And I do think that they're going to win. One of the next 2 games. I mean, whether it's Minnesota or in the Big Ten tournament. I think this team, all along, I thought they were going to be in the NCAA tournament. But look, You're right. I mean, they lose. I guess the net ranking. I guess we do have a little bit of news. Net ranking, which everyone talks about as the thing that the NCAA selection committee looks at more than anything. They went from 32 down to 38, so not as big of a drop as a lot of people feared. Look, they lose to Minnesota. It's probably going to dip into the 40s, and that's not where you want to be come Selection Sunday. No one knows how many teams the Big Ten are going to get. If they get 8, Rutgers wants to be in top 8. Because who knows what how they're going to value the Big Ten tournament. I think they're gonna, if you had to ask me now, I think they're gonna come up big. The one thing that concerns me is Minnesota's good at home, and they have something to play for too. They do have some NCAA tournament life, albeit a faint pulse, but they do have a pulse. So I don't know. I think this is going to be a team that probably comes back and looks like they did against Purdue. That's what I'm banking on, but who knows?
All right, let's talk about the tournament bubble here for a minute now. I was surprised, Cratch. I mean, I thought, that was the kind of loss that people would have punished them a lot for. Joe, I know these bracketologies are often wrong, but Joe Lenardi, a guy's been doing it for 50 years, has them drop from an 8 to a 9. So essentially not dropping at all. Jerry Palm had them not dropping. Still has them as an 8. That is solidly in the field. That's not really on the bubble. That's a team that should expect to hear its name. The net ranking, I don't know. I'm curious how much the committee is going to use that this year. Just looking at it today, I mean, Colgate's still number 9. There's just a lot about it that makes you wonder how accurate and how good of a barometer that thing's going to be this year. I mean, Duke's 58. I mean, there's a lot of things you look at, you're like, oh, that's strange. I mean, where do you think they are right now? And is it as simple as the one win? And if they don't get the one win, where do you think they are, Cratch?
I think they're in at the moment. I will say this. I get the feeling that a loss like they just suffered maybe is not going to have this massive impact 12 hours later. But what's going to happen 2 weeks from now when we get through all these conference tournaments and we have upsets and, a team like Duke goes and wins the ACC tournament and suddenly is in and, that creates a ripple effect. And, that's where I think the problem is going to be. This could be a delayed impact, this loss for Rutgers. Look, I think they have to win at least one more game to feel comfortable, which I think it's a tough situation. But as Sarge said, Minnesota's really good at home. They're somewhat, still in the hunt. Richard Pitino's might be coaching for his job. I think that's going to be the big debate out in Minneapolis. Do they have the money in these COVID times to get rid of him? Big Ten tournament, I think it's a crapshoot. And then, then you're at the mercy of the committee. I do think this, and I don't know if it's conscious or subconscious, I do tend to think that the committee is going to lean toward Power 5 teams as at-large bids over mid-majors. And it sounds horrible. I think there's some greater level of trust that those teams are going to stay COVID-free and get to the bracket.
Interesting. I hadn't considered that. I also wonder if the committee will look at what happened last year and have a little sentiment. They're not supposed to do it. I know they're not supposed to do it, but they're human beings. Mm-hmm. I wonder if they'll see Rutgers and go, if a toss-up thing.
I think the other thing I'm intrigued to see is how do they attack, look at the conference tournaments, because obviously at the lower levels, those teams are playing as hard as they can. It's one bid league. They've got to get in. I'm telling you, I'm convinced that some Power 5 coach is going to completely tank a conference tournament game just to get his guys back in the hotel and away from COVID as much as possible. It's going to be look at the way people freaked out about Doug Peterson, in a week 17 football game. What happens if, obviously Gonzaga's not going to do it because they're undefeated. What happens if Baylor gets to the Big 12 tournament? They've already lost. And Scott Drew's like, you know what? This is stupid. This is not worth it. I'm going to suddenly decide I have to play some of these walk-ons, extended minutes, and we're going to get the hell out of here. Yeah. The conference tournaments are the dumbest thing every year for the most part, but they're really stupid this year. It's an unnecessary risk. And if I was if they had beaten Nebraska, I was going to come on here and say, you know what, Steve Peichel, you should give a lot of run to Luke Nathan and Nick Brooks in the first round of the Big Ten tournament and just pack it up. But obviously now I don't think they can do that.
Well, this is another reason why they can't do this. And I didn't know this. I don't know if you guys knew this, but when they go to Indianapolis on Wednesday for what it's still going to be a Thursday game, no matter what happens. they're going to stay. I don't think they're going to stay through Selection Sunday, because the Big Ten wants them there in Indianapolis if they get into the tournament. So this is a fascinating scenario. Let's say they lose that first round game, and it's possible if you look at the seeding now that they're going to have an 8-9 game in the Big Ten tournament against a Maryland, really rising Maryland team with a chance, which would mean if even you win that, you have to play Michigan in the next game. So they could lose on Thursday, stay through Sunday, and not have their name called on Selection Sunday. I have to head back. Can you imagine that? I mean, that is a crazy scenario.
The one thing is, they will have, I guess, teams that don't see their names called on Sunday. They might have to wait around anyway, just because of the fear of COVID. And if a team has to opt out last minute, I guess there's a 48-hour rule where they're going to have teams like in the hopper just in case, right?
Is that right?
On the ready, yeah.
So the NCAA, it's been somewhat complicated, but it sounds like the four teams, the last four out.
The last four out
are basically going to be kept in reserve.
Oh my God, this is crazy.
And there's going to be a 16-team NIT in the Dallas,
which is stupid.
Area.
I cannot accept. Rutgers will not accept that. I hope. My goodness.
Oh, see, that's the I don't know. I would tend to think no, because this team is, they would go down there and lose to Appalachian State in the first round. It'd just be a complete disaster. I don't look at this team as missing the tournament in this agonizing.
Let's not even think about it.
Hey, let's go win the NIT. No, last thing of all, very low on the list of things that have been taken by this pandemic. Can you imagine last year or even this year the party that would have been at the rack on Selection Sunday?
Oh man,
when their name got called.
Right.
I mean, it would have been 8,000 people in the stadium.
Amazing.
It would have been the biggest party the rack has ever seen. It's kind of a shame that they didn't get that moment.
So we just came up with the scenario to end all scenarios for Rutgers. So they lose Thursday. They were the last four out. Then they get a bid because of some team gets a COVID outbreak. Then they play in the first four as a 12 seed, and they win that game. And then you're in a good position. You're like a 12 seed. You're in the tournament. I mean, this could be a fascinating. I'm going to stop talking now because I don't want to cause any more.
Yeah. Why?
I don't want to cause any more stress for Rutgers. All right.
I wonder if the Big Ten would let Rutgers, I don't know, let's say they could find some sort of Airbnb in Kokomo, Indiana or something. Just kind of chill there. Find a place with a basketball. It's Indiana. Somebody's got to have a basketball court in the backyard. Go to the Hoosiers gym. Just hang out there.
Man, that's this went off the rails, but so is the season or at this point. All right, let's dive into true or false, guys. You know the rules. I've got the biggest one for you now. I'm going to start right off the bat. True or false? Rutgers will make the NCAA tournament. James Kratch, true or false?
True.
Keith Sargent?
True.
All right, I'm still there. True as well.
That was a confident true, by the way.
That was a confident true. I've got a true. But all right, true or false? Steve Peichel is on the hot seat with fans if they don't. James Kratch, true or false?
True.
Sarge?
True, but it doesn't really matter. But true.
Doesn't matter, of course, but true. Yeah. All right, true or false? The Nebraska loss is worse than Rutgers' loss in football against Cincinnati in 2006. Kratch, true or false?
False.
Okay. Sarge, true or false?
False.
I will say this. I'm going to agree with you on false, but that Cincinnati team was pretty good, unlike Nebraska. All right, true or false? Stop sweating. The Big Ten is going to get 9 teams. Kratch, true or false?
False.
Okay. Sarge?
I think true.
Yeah, they're going to get 9. They're going to stop sweating, though. True or false? Michigan's going to win the Natty. James Kratch, true or false?
False.
Sarge?
Wow. God, I like them. I think they'll be in the Final Four.
Yeah, once you get there.
Yeah, I'm going to say false.
False? Okay. I'm going to say true on that one. I think they're just that good.
Yeah, right. I might change. I reserve it.
All right. True or false? The women's basketball team is Sweet 16 bound. James Kratch, true or false?
False.
All right. Sarge?
True.
Look pretty damn good. I'm going to go false just because it's hard to get past the second round game in the NCAA tournament. We'll put them in somehow against UConn. All right. True or false? Rutgers is a lacrosse school. Kratch.
True.
Women's lacrosse, top 5, Sarge, true or false?
True.
It's a nice story. And I will say, like, I know it doesn't get any attention, but, talking to Pat Hobbs over the weekend just about what's going on campus right now, it's a good feel good thing. I mean, we've got the fall sports are playing and they're playing well. The spring sports are playing and they're playing well. It gets overshadowed by anything the basketball team does. But, I mean, Cratch, the lacrosse thing is real. They're pretty darn good, right?
No, they are. The men's lacrosse team, obviously, they've got a face-off guy. The Curse brothers have transferred in. They really seem to be cooking. It seems like, this is, as long as everything continues to progress, they should be able to make the NCAA tournament finally, which I think would be a big step for a program that's been close before. Coach Brian Breck that, hasn't made it. This is his 10th year here, hasn't made it yet. Women's lacrosse, great story.
3-1.
3-1. Melissa Lee, my understanding is that the schedule is about to get much tougher for the women, so I think that this might be a situation where you got to really enjoy the good times while you can, because I think they're going to start to play some really elite teams. But hey, they just swept a nationally ranked Ohio State team, so maybe they can kind of surprise and win a game or two more down the stretch. But I do think their schedule is going to get tougher. I think the men have a better long-term hopes to make the NCAA tournament than the women, but we'll see what happens.
Well, I mean, and then the soccer programs are doing well. Men's soccer's 2-1. Women's soccer's 2-1. Men's soccer lost to Penn State, but beat Michigan State and Wisconsin on the road. Women's soccer, they're 2-1 as well. Women's volleyball has 2 wins. That's they're 2-10, but I mean they do have 2 wins, and that that's matched they're the most they've ever had in Big Ten play. Men's golf, they had a couple wins in the Big Ten match play championship. Track and field had a good showing over at the Big Ten. I sound like Pat Hobbs. I mean, you had the conversation with Pat Hobbs, but it is amazing when results aside, success aside, it is amazing when you think about like how many sports are playing. Baseball will be playing starting Friday. Softball's already playing. Right, yeah. It is amazing. The hardest working people on the Rutgers campus are the athletic trainers at this point.
All right, you both answered false to the Steve Peichel is on the hot seat question.
I said true.
You said true. True with the fem. Sorry, but not really on the hot seat. True. It's an interesting question, and I was exchanging emails with our editor Kevin Manhan about this this morning. Just the idea, it's just like I feel badly for him because of the circumstances in a lot of ways. Like, if you had said to you're the basketball coach at Rutgers, you're going to make the tournament in 4 years, which they would have done. Yes. Last year, they would have made the tournament. Then that would have taken just a tremendous amount of pressure off him, off the rebuild, off this team. It would have changed the dynamic entirely. The world steps in and offers the greatest example of the RU screw ever. Should fans not take that into consideration when they evaluate what's going on?
Of course they should,
but they're not going to.
I mean, again, I said true, but it doesn't matter because he has the support of the unwavering support of the AD, and he has a long-term contract. And again, they would have been in the NCAA tournament last year. If anything, they probably skipped a step by assuming they that they would have been in the NCAA tournament a year ago. So, yeah, this is disappointing, and this reminds me of the Rutgers football program in 2007. When they coming off to 2006 season, everyone thought, the schedule eases up. They have Ray Rice back, Mike Teal, all these weapons, and then they just laid an egg, and it kind of reminds me of that. Once you taste a little success. Maybe these guys have been playing together too long. They're not a proven commodity. And look, I mean, we can evaluate and analyze, all we want, but when you don't make 3-point shots the way they did, at Nebraska, you look terrible. You just do. I think they were 0 for 8 in the first half. You're just not. They
didn't defend 3-point shots either, and they didn't rebound.
And that surprised me too, because defense. I mean, that's the one thing that I've always been able to hang my hat on Steve Peichel the last couple of years is they defend, and that's all effort. And look, Geo Baker, said it. He was pretty candid afterward. He said it was an effort loss, and I think at this point in the year, you could debate whether or not they should be at that stage where there are effort losses, especially with everything to play for. But it was what it was. It's hard to pin it on Peichel when the team captain talks about effort and they just miss 3-point shots.
Kratz, why does this keep on happening though? I guess is the question. Like, at what point is it on the coach? I mean, this is another winnable game, another game they should have won. This is no question about. They should have won this game to come out with a complete notion. Hey, Rutgers Rant listeners, if you listen to our podcast, we know you love Rutgers. And if you love Rutgers, you know the impact our sponsor, the New Brunswick Development Corporation, has had on the campus and its community. We thank them for their support. Hey, Rutgers Rant listeners, if you listen to our podcast, we know you love Rutgers. And if you love Rutgers, you know the impact our sponsor, the New Brunswick Development Corporation, has had on the campus and its community. We thank them for their support. Show with all that's on the lot. I mean, is it at some point on the coach?
Of course it is. I mean, Steve Peichel has said, I got to do a better job getting him ready. I asked him and I said, Steve, it's March 1st. You play for the NCAA tournament. Like, if they can't get ready for this one after having, and that was something that kind of, when a coach starts talking about how great practice has been, it's usually not trending in a great direction. That's usually people want to hear that. Bad sign. I will say this. The reason why I said true is this, and like Sarge is absolutely right. Like, it's a horrible break last year and everything. If they don't make the tournament this year, I think most of us assume that it's going to be a very different team next year. Gio, Jacob Young, Miles might all be gone. If you don't make the tournament next year, when presumably you still got Ron and Cliff and Mulcahy, then all of a sudden, you're almost like the cycle is starting anew, and you've got to, keep building and developing. And I just feel like at that point, when you start to get to year 7 and there's no NCAA tournament, that's when things start to get shaky. So look, I agree. Like, Peichel has a long-term contract. He's got Pat Hobbs in his corner. He's had a lot of bad luck with this thing. But it's just, if they don't make the tournament this year, to be frank, you just start to wonder if this is a snake-bitten situation, that it's not going to end anytime soon, but it's going downhill gradually and slowly.
Right. It could be another Northwestern situation where they make the tournament and then it's just replicating that success is difficult.
I don't know if I've ever said it on here, but I've always thought that, Peichel, with the way he recruits and he develops, and it's always like a 4-year cycle. And, what happens when all of a sudden you don't make the tournament at the back end of a 4-year cycle, and then it's just, if you suddenly start to stack things up, I'm not saying Steve Peichel's going to get fired anytime soon, but the you can sort of see how things could kind of gradually slide from here if they don't get it.
Right. All right. Let's dive into the insider questions. As always, thank you for sending them in. Rutgers Insider. If you haven't joined yet, you can be part of the conversation and yell at us after losses. All right. This is a good one. I like it because it'll really make you think. In terms of all-time Rutgers sports no-shows in a big game, where does Nebraska loss rank? Obviously, it's behind football's blowout losses to Cincinnati in 2006, the week after beating Louisville. But other than that, Sarge, can you come up with any that make you go that you put on the list? Wasn't there a couple where Rutgers had a chance in the 2005, 2006 range to make it to the tournament, instead it ended up in the NIT? What do you got?
That is a great question.
It is a great question.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the year that everyone talks about the Virginia Tech loss.
Yeah,
but then the following week the following game they lost to the Seton Hall. That could have cured a lot of ills, and then they lost to Virginia Tech again, I believe, in the in the Big East tournament. Football, I mean, the Cincinnati game obviously comes to mind first and foremost.
Right.
The Connecticut loss back in 2011.
Yes. That was a huge one.
Yeah, and that was as despondent as I've ever seen Greg Schiano.
Yeah, that might have nudged him to the door as much as anything else.
That might have. That was inexplicable. Those are the two football losses that really come to mind.
Right. All right. Here's another good one.
Go ahead, Kretsch. You got one?
I was say it doesn't have the same magnitude, but 2018 football at Kansas.
Oh, that was a no-show. Yeah,
that was a no-show, and like you went in thinking they had a chance to be 2-1, and you literally left, and you were like, okay, let's start pre-writing Chris Ash gets fired because it was
coaching
not only
lists.
that, but like the hey 5, 6, 7, the most insane comments I've ever heard in a press conference.
Right. Yeah, that was not. That was
no. I mean, it didn't really have the same magnitude. But I remember Rutgers wrestling a couple seasons ago. They wrestled Nebraska at home on like a Friday night. There were like 7,000 people in the rack, and Rutgers just got absolutely smoked. They had some injuries, but they were just non-competitive. It was the weirdest night I've ever had at the rack because there was 7,000 people there just sitting there doing nothing.
Yeah.
But then it turned out to be a blessing in disguise because Goody kind of lit a fire under their butts, and they went out and they upset Princeton on Sunday.
All right, a good question from Joe H. Here's the issue that's on many of our minds. This team is too talented to go down 30 points to Nebraska midway through the second half. There's something not clicking chemistry-wise, and Peichel either doesn't see it or won't address it. What do you guys think? It's a great question. I'm going to throw this out here. Gio Baker and Jacob Young have been on the same team for a long time. Yes. 2 games in a row, they're in the starting lineup, and they're down 10 before, you get to the first time out, essentially. Is there something there, Sarge? Is it right in front of us?
I think that's it. I mean, I think, these guys have been playing together for so long. Steve Peichel talked about after the game, their 2 best practices, of the season. Let me ask you this. Should they be having their 2 best practices of the season, on February 7th and 28th? I mean, should they, at this point, it could be a chemistry. It probably is a chemistry issue. I don't want to say that they've tuned them out, but you have a lot of veterans on this team who have been playing together for a long time. So your guess is as good as mine. We're not there. The one issue, when we've talked about the COVID thing, is we're not inside the building. When you're inside the building and you're able to cover practices and you get more of a feel for it. So I can't tell you that I have my finger on the pulse, as far as the ins and outs and what's going on chemistry wise, but there is something that's just not clicking.
Kretsch, do you agree?
Yeah, I just think that this, and I think it might be as simple as just this has been, a long haul. I mean, think about it. These guys have been on campus about just as long as the football players were.
It's true. Yeah,
and the football players at least had a camp, and then the season got postponed, so they went home, and then they came back and they had a season where these guys have just been in a gym until Thanksgiving, and then they've had this miserable March and the injuries. I just think it's probably fatigue. I mean, it almost feels like last season has run into this season. And it just keeps going and going and going. But, the only thing I would say is these guys just have to dig down and realize that if they don't get to the tournament, it's going to haunt them forever.
Right.
So they've got to figure out a way to pull it together, beat Minnesota, get in. And at that point, it's gravy. If they get in the tournament and they lose by 20 points in the first round, Rutgers fans will be disappointed. They'll be disappointed. But at least they got there. They've got to get the weight of the world off their backs and get in, and then it's over, and the program I honestly think the Rutgers would be better off going to the tournament and getting blown out to the point that everyone turns off True TV 10 minutes in than missing the tournament. I think long term for the program, have to get it.
Oh, there's no question. They got to get in. There's no question about that. All right, here's another a good one from Rick in South Carolina. I was thinking that even if all the men's basketball seniors return, does the ceiling change much if they all leave? I feel like the ceiling is around the same, but there's a lower floor if they leave. Yeah, that's an interesting question. And we were looking at this. Another texter put in what the starting lineup will look like if Gio and Jacob Young go pro. I think the floor could be pretty low without those 2 guys. I mean, sure. You look at the starting lineup where you got Ron Harper and Caleb McConnell in there. You still got Paul McKay and Montez Mathis, Cliff at center. So that's a good starting lineup, but the bench pretty thin. Who wants to take this one first?
I actually think that of those 3 guys, you want Miles to stay the most, maybe, just because you need big men, and you don't have that. I mean, obviously Gio is going to be a Rutgers Hall of Famer. Jacob Young is a guy who can do a lot of things on this team no one else can. But they have guards in reserve. They don't have big bodies in the paint besides Cliff really they trust, and that's something that you don't necessarily go recruit a guy and he plays immediately. So I think Miles is the guy who I think if they hold on to him, they've got a good chance, even if Gio and Jacob Young leave, to kind of hold the fort down.
I just want to brace Rutgers fans for the notion. I mean, I was a little surprised that Miles Johnson was made available for senior night beforehand, and he was honored. But he told us like he's already applied to 3 or 4 other schools for a grad school. So if he transfers, this is an atypical, guy, who wants to go to greener pastures. He's transferring for everything that you hope for, like a student athlete to transfer for a better opportunity from a grad school program. So again, I don't know if he. I got the feeling that if he's already applying to other schools, that he probably has a couple schools in mind that where he'd like to go, because it's more about academics and setting himself for the future.
By the way, just while we're talking about Miles Johnson against Nebraska, 22 minutes, 2 points, 4 rebounds.
Agreed.
So, yeah, I mean that's something that we were calling him one of the best big men in the Big Ten. Certainly, I get it; they're not giving them the ball, but if you're one of the best big men in the Big Ten, that's not your performance against the Nebraska front line.
On a somewhat lighthearted note, like obviously Miles wants serious engineering student. Can you imagine if you're the basketball coach at Caltech? And because Miles said he wants to keep playing basketball. You drop MIT and hey, Miles Johnson just walked in the door. He's going to school here. And he wants to play hoops.
Stevens Institute of Technology should be sending him a letter. Hey, look, we got a good enginening program.
Yeah.
Hoboken, it's the best.
Come on, you can live right. Yeah, exactly. It'd be good. All right, some more questions. Another one from Rick in South Carolina. It says that this is a really fun to have a bunch of sports playing at the same time and most doing well. What is the best Rutgers sports team right now? That's interesting. I mean, what? Ooh. Who would it would be women's basketball? I think who would be the best Rutgers sports team?
I would have said women's soccer. And I still might. I haven't seen them. I mean, they're 2-1.
Yeah. It's too early to say. Yeah.
So it's too early to say. I mean, traditionally, based on recent history, the last couple of years, I mean, it's women's soccer. Men's lacrosse is, I think they might have cured a lot of ills with the face-off issue that they've had the last couple of years, and they're 2-0 and they have 2 ranked wins. Yep. It's quite possible that if the same question gets posed in May, that's the team. That's the team that was the best Rutgers team. Yeah. But right now, I'm just going to say women's soccer just based on past history.
Keep an eye on field hockey.
Wow! Oh, out of nowhere, field hockey
off to a strong start, and it's all about goalkeeping. Gianna Glatz is one of the best net cage minders in America. So if she stands up, if she has a brilliant year, she could take them a long way too. So yeah, I would say women's basketball, 7 straight wins, tremendous. I think that the reason why I said false about them going to the Sweet 16 is right now they're kind of still in that 7 to 10 range in bracketology. Right. I know that ESPN's women's college basketball bracketology is not necessarily usually as accurate as the men's basketball side, but I do think that, as you said, that you're still getting in that matchup where there's a very good chance that you've got a hammer waiting for you in the second round.
Well, it's going to be UConn. No matter what, the NCAA is going to match them up with UConn in the second round. So
can you imagine being a field hockey goaltender? By the way. I mean, that ball, if you feel the ball, it's solid as a rock, and they whack it with the stick. I mean,
yeah, but it doesn't look like much fun. Like the Hurt Locker. I mean, it's like
okay.
They do have a lot of
Garth, like Garth Snow from the Flyers in the 90s. All right, okay, good to know. What were we talking about? Oh, that's right. We're doing questions. A lot of questions from insiders about the Rutgers offense. And coach is a defensive guru, yet our offense looks like it was devised by an elementary school gym coach. Why do we not move the ball better? Why do we not set up Paul McKay for more 3-point shots? I mean, what's going on with the Rutgers offense, guys? You guys got a theory?
I don't know about Paul McKay taking more 3-point shots. I mean, I don't think he's your best 3-point option for sure. But
I mean, the Rutgers offense is the Rutgers offense has always been under Peichel. Like, it's not like some new phenomenon, like just like the free throw shooting. Yeah. So, hey, maybe that's something at the end of the season they've got to evaluate. Maybe they need to go out there and get their Sean Gleason or something. But I just think this is the team they are.
Right. Need to go out and get their Jeff Billett. I need to go out and get someone who's just a reliable, not a streaky shooter, not just a guy who can hit. I don't understand why why Steve Peichel has not been able to recruit that guy. You know what I'm talking about?
I think he's been trying, but to no avail. And I think if they do have one, I think he is, whether it's Palmquist or I think he just does not want to sacrifice defense. So I think, he's not going to give a long leash to a guy who is going to, be inconsistent from a 3-point shot and then offer you nothing from the defensive end.
Well, yeah, they had nothing from the defensive end.
And Montez Mathis, people thought, 3 years ago, people thought that he developed. He has not developed an outside shot.
He might be the biggest enigma on this team in a lot of ways for me.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I just see him and you think, all right, this is a guy with the talent. This is the guy, who should be, just a reliable 15-point a game guy. And sometimes I think he's, that he shouldn't be out there at all. A lot of times when I'm watching. So it's interesting with him. All right. Those are all the questions I've got. I appreciate as always, we love you guys for texting us and for contributing to our show. That's all I got, guys. What else you want to talk about? Anything else?
We hit a lot of bases.
Big Ten wrestling.
Big Ten wrestling. Cratch will be out there, right?
Are you going?
The plan is I will be in Penn State.
Where is it? It's Penn State. Okay. Tell us about that.
How many kids get to the podium, Cratch? How many kids actually win it?
Where you stand, more importantly?
Courtyard State College.
Can we talk nuts and bolts?
Nuts and bolts. Look, so the pre-seeds come out later today. We're taping this. Bracket doesn't come out till Friday. I think Rutgers, I'll just run through the lineup. It sounds like they're probably going to go with Shawver at 125. Don't think he's going to make the national tournament. Sammy Alvarez, Sebastian Rivera, have significant contenders to win Big Ten titles, should have no issue getting nationals. Mike Van Brill's got a tough weight class, but I like his chances to get there. He's maybe the best 1-3 wrestler in the Big Ten. He's really kind of wrestled well. Obviously, that's a big question. How does this team look after such a long layoff? 157, I think that tough time getting a guy through there. 65, same deal. I think Jackson Turley has a shot at 74. 84, John Poznanski, if he wrestles to his ability, should get in. 97, Billy Janser, really tough, but he has the ability to kind of out-wrestle the seed. They've only got 6 AQ spots there. Big Ten got kind of the short end of the stick there. And a heavyweight, I think, Colucci, it sounds like it's going to be him. So I think there's a good chance to get 5, I would say realistically 4 or 5, maybe upwards of 6 or 7. But I think this is just a young team, and with the big layoff and the strange season, you're not going to see as many guys get there. But I think you've got 2 serious national title All-American contenders in Rivera and Alvarez. And I think a guy like Poznanski has a chance to make the podium in St. Louis as well.
Rivera the favorite to win the national title? It
depends who you ask. He's ranked by some outlets, but we're going to find out for sure, because obviously he's going into this weekend. He's got Ironman out from Iowa, number 1 in the country. Lee from Penn State's number 2. He's number 3. So we should get a really good idea of whether he can win a national title this weekend.
Here's a question for you, Wrestling Sarge. If you had a choice right now, and you had to choose between a wrestler from any school or the kid from Iowa, who are you taking in this sight unseen?
The kid from Iowa.
You're taking the kid from Iowa, right?
Didn't AC Slater go to Iowa from Saved by the Bell?
Yeah.
Or no, he didn't. He was going to. I think he had a scholarship to Iowa.
Is that right?
I think so. And he was on the.
Did he get revoked?
Yeah.
Iowa is a heavy favorite to win the Big Ten team title again this year.
Right.
Should probably win a national title as well. But you never know. You never can count out Penn State. Just when you think, Penn State has done this before. They've lost the team title at the Big Ten tournament, and then 2 weeks later turned it around and won a national title.
All right. Fellas.
Have we lost our sponsor yet? Or, Figures.
Tino's gonna call. It's like spent a lot of time talking about Iowa wrestling on that show.
This is just not working out.
This is not what I expected.
It's not me. It's you.
This is not good. This is not good for the Defco brand. All of a sudden, we're building. We've completely remade New Brunswick, and you guys are talking about Iowa wrestling. All right. On that note, I want to thank everyone for listening. Hopefully, we'll be back. I think we're probably going to do one on Monday, fellas. Right? We'll do one. We'll do one next week, definitely after they play Minnesota, when we will know and preview the Big Ten tournament. Hopefully, we'll be previewing it with the acknowledgement that Rutgers will be in the NCAAs if they beat Minnesota. If not, it's going to be fun. All right. Thanks for listening, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Rutgers Rant. To participate in the conversation and receive live updates about the Scarlet Knights directly to your phone, sign up at NJ.com/insider.
You haven't heard enough from me yet, huh? Steve Politti here for one last thank you to this episode's sponsor, New Brunswick Development Corporation, and to listeners like you who make it all the way to the end of the show. We'll see you again soon.